So ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another session of Scatteryan podcast where we discuss how society, whether a big aspect or small aspect of society, influences and shape our behavior. I'm your guy, Toves, and in this particular episode, I'm joined with my guy, Dr. Morris, aka the Traveler. How are you feeling today, Mr. Morris?
Very good, very well. I am feeling not too bad. I just came back from a long run, so I remember I told you I'm training for a marathon, so
Yeah, yeah.
doing the daily, well, not daily. I've toned down the number of runs I do per week to like 3 or 4. So just came back from a long run, so that runner's high is still fresh
Hmm.
within me, so it's good.
Fair enough. Or maybe we can use that, can channel that high in this particular episode because I think as a runner, you run in different locations and you tend to have different kind of conversation where you meet different people and you tend to have different conversation with those people. So we're talking about conversations, right?
Okay.
Those moments that make us feel seen, heard, and sometimes absolutely exhausted, right? So let's dive in, right? Because the way I'm going to say this to the audience as well. Do you prefer deep talks or is small talk underrated? Right? Which one do you prefer? I think I prefer deep talks. Even in this conversation, to me, this conversation we're having today is going to be a deep talk, even though in my head it's a small talk. It's light-hearted conversation, but it tends to be a deep one. Maybe because it's a podcast, fair enough. But these are the kind of conversations I like to have in a normal day anyway. And I'm sure Morris kind of like is the same in some situations, right? So let's start with the basics. Why do we bother even talking, right? I mean, sure, words are how we connect, but what's the real purpose behind deep and superficial conversation? So basic conversation. Some people will say small talk is like a treat, but deep conversation is like a bad Wi-Fi, painful and avoidable. Like I said, I prefer to have a deep conversation. But you, Mr. Morris, Dr. Morris, which one do you prefer? Heart-to-heart talks, deep one, or light and breezy chats? Which do you prefer on a normal day?
Ooh, I think I think it depends. If I think sometimes um, the talk it starts off like a small talk, but then depending on the type of connection you have with that person, it just evolves into a deeper talk. So
Mm,
usually, I think most conversations start off light-hearted, small talk, but then, depending on how the interaction goes, it could sway either way. It could just be casual, irrelevant, maybe not too many meanings attached to it. But
yeah,
then, um, the more connection you have with the person or the other person,
yeah,
the more likely is going to go into the other part of the equation, which is the deep talk. But I personally, I think I prefer the deep talks than the small ones, because for the conversation, for me, the way I define deep talk is that it leaves you with something to think about.
mm,
You remember that conversation. There's so many conversations we've had with people in the past, and we don't really remember. Oh, I know this person. We spoke briefly, but you can't really remember exactly what was said. But
yeah.
a deep talk leaves that mark on you. So I tend to remember, you know, people that I've had deeper conversations with,
Yeah.
in comparison with people that you just have small talk with. So that's what I think.
Yeah, fair enough. I think I also agree with you. Like small talk are like entree, like the appetizer that leads into the
Yeah.
deep talk. But there's some people that in a social setting they don't even want to have any deep conversation at all. While there are others that like, they'll start up small and then depending on how long they are with the person, then they might evolve into something deeper, something more memorable. Like you said, I also think that deep talk is what I think is memorable that people will remember and they can used to remember, oh, someone I met one place said this, but not everyone is going to remember the person that asked you about the weather um,
Yeah.
that day. But then I'm just also thinking, like, do you think that, and this also to everyone listening, right? Do you think that being an introvert or an extrovert will change your preference in your kind of conversation? I would like to think I'm an introvert. Personally, I can be extroverted if I need to. Obviously, we are grown up in society. You have to be
Yeah.
extroverted and talk to people. But even in that situation, when I'm even extrovert, I'm an extrovert, introvert. I still prefer some kind of deep talks that will like make me kind of think and ruminate on things. I still like to have fun, but in that fun conversations, I still want something that will leave me to think about. So I would like to think. I don't know if there's a stats to prove this. I should have done the research. Apologies. Whether introverts tend to prefer more deep conversations and extroverts tend to prefer more light conversations, I don't know. But what do you think will be the case if I
Hmm.
make an hypothesis as a
Okay.
doctor you are?
Uh, okay, let me make an educated guess here. Okay, I'll speak from my own experience of, you know, the people I've met, people that are, self-acclaimed introverts. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of us would, I don't know, I think most of the people I've met actually think that they are introverts. I
Mm-hmm.
think, yeah, in comparison with the extrovert. Um, so I think, but the thing is, with most of those people, they, when once they're like, they know you, like
Mm-hmm.
they build some form of friendship or um, emotional connection with you, then we find that extroverted part of them tends to come out more. So they talk more, they share things that they wouldn't share in a normal situation. So I think introverts, from the ones I've met,
Mm-hmm.
um, tend to uh, prefer deeper conversations because introverts, I think also that they usually, I think introverts are just extrovert that takes longer time to get out of their shell, right?
Mm-hmm. Right, nice way to
So
put it. Yeah.
yeah, so the more they have that conversation, they build that rapport with you, then you start to see the real them. They come out and they speak to you freely and they can easily share.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so I would think that introverts would prefer deeper conversations as well. So that's what I think.
Fair enough. I think that I might be slightly biased here in this conversation that we're having because I prefer
Mhm.
deep conversations. So apologies to all the people that like small conversations, right?
Well,
But
okay, let's look at it this other way, right?
okay,
So
go.
how
Let's go there.
about
I'll come back.
um, those small conversations? Where are they more prevalent, right? I think
I can
if
still
we look
out.
at,
Okay, yeah, go on. No,
okay,
finish.
no, go on.
And I was going to
Uh,
say
uh,
maybe the small conversations are kind of prevalent, like in workplaces. Like I said, people don't want that deep connection, that friendship, per
okay,
se. So they prefer to have like small talk, small conversation, keep it light-hearted, and then move on. Like because they don't want you to know too much about themselves. And also, it can be like you said, there are people that takes long to come out of their shell. So they don't want to be vulnerable with people. So they tend to prefer to have small talk. So that's what I was going to say. I don't know if you had a let to go a
yeah,
different direction.
I was thinking about it from another angle to say small conversations. Um, I think also occurs more often when there is less opportunity, when you think there is less opportunity that you meet with that person in future, right? Or when you think that there is, uh, you know, for example, right? Over the weekend, there's this national running festival that they do every year here in the UK. So we went there, and in the um, event, you would see like lots of running groups, lots of companies selling their products. Some would give you like free samples. We got loads of free samples, protein bars, running gel, energy drinks, and so on, you know. And so basically, you have people trying to, come up to you, pitch ideas to you about what they do, what their group is all about.
Yeah,
And we went to a number of stores, right? But there was this store that stood out, and the guy spoke for like, it wasn't really a store, it was just like a running group, you know. And he spoke for about more than 15 minutes. We were just talking about, the type of events that they do and
yeah,
so on and so forth. And it was interesting. And but there were so many other stores that we went to, or so many people that would stop us, and um, we never got to have that long conversation with. So
Yeah.
I think the reason why is because personally, I shared something in common with that other group, right? So it
Mm.
was a black. I've forgotten the name of the group. Just it just escaped me. I think it's ECW. Stands for something. Well, basically, it's a black and ethnic minority group that tries to promote, healthy living among people. They advocate for, knife crimes and so on. So he was just telling us about, what they do, how they like to go to like different parts of the country where there's underrepresentation.
Yeah.
So, and we talked to a point whereby and they also mentioned that they go from, city to city, they go to park runs and basically trying to find out where you have ethnic minorities to try and encourage them that, okay, we see you, we're one of you, so just come out, run with us, we volunteer, we do all these things in order to encourage participation from this group.
Yeah.
And there is every possibility that I would run into them again at
A
my
different
next
event. Yeah.
platform or at a different event, and this is something that I like personally and I see myself in these people. So with that we're able to have that deep conversation as to, what type of running I like. So we just went on, we talked a
Mm.
long time. So going back to before I uh yeah, going back to what I was saying, yeah. So basically I think that the more likely you're to encounter that person again,
Yeah.
the more the need for
A deeper
you
conversation.
to have a deeper conversation with the person, because again we're all social beings, so
Yeah.
we want to form that bond or connection. And if I know that I'm not going to be seeing you, then I probably may not care too much about having too deep of a conversation with you you know
Mm.
but if reverse is the case, then chances are I may want to, go a little bit deeper. But
Fair.
yeah, that could be one.
Yeah, while we were talking, I thought about a different perspective as well that I can add because sometimes people would like to have deep conversations, but then again, it requires energy. You can say that since you're using running, we can say deep conversations are like an emotional CrossFit, right? They require
Okay.
energy, vulnerability, and the right partner to do it. So sometimes, when you want to open up to someone, it can feel like peeling an onion, different layers of emotion. Sometimes people might even cry, depending on the kind of conversation. So because of that level of vulnerability, because of that level of energy that it would take to go into a deep conversation, some people don't even want to do that in a social setting. So they just decide to have a smaller type of conversation or a superficial, surface level type of conversations. I think that's another way because they don't want to be vulnerable. They don't want to have the time to go deep and talking about themselves and things like that. I think that's another thing that we can say about why people
W-
might prefer to have small conversation in a
Yes.
small
Yes.
set.
Still on that, how about we look at it this other way, right?
Hmm.
Some people want to have deeper conversations, but they don't know how to. Like they don't know how to get out of their shell. They don't know how to, because there are certain people that you would meet, right? I
Hmm.
think these people are just naturally good at that. Maybe it could be from the way they were raised, the type of. So they could bring out that, you know, no matter how reserved you are, you're you can tell them things. You can go into a deeper conversation with them. So that then brings me to the question of: is it that the person you're having that conversation with also plays a major role in bringing out that side from the other person? Because um, yeah, we could have situations whereby someone doesn't really go into deeper conversation, but they're with someone else and they just get into that conversation. One way I can think about it is, again, we talk about relatability.
Yeah,
If you have something in common with somebody, then you're likely to have a deeper conversation with that person because you could just bond over something simple. I
yeah,
remember there was a man again yesterday, or no, over the weekend, that stopped me and he was trying to sell a product. The way the man got to me was I was wearing a shirt that said Dad's Taxi, right? So the
hmm,
man was like, oh, he used to have this kind of shirt that
yeah,
basically he's the dad and he's literally the taxi driver for his children. And
Hmm.
he just went on telling me about his kid. So he found that
Something to
thing,
connect with. Yeah.
yes. And then after a while, he asked me question like, do you have kids and stuff like that? These are things that you would not normally share with somebody you just met. But because of the
Yeah.
way the conversation went, we had that moment whereby we had that conversation. So I think sometimes people don't know how to, but from my experience, I think finding something you have in common with somebody,
Hmm.
asking them questions about themselves, not too
Yeah.
personal, and also sharing something about yourself could bring out, um, those deeper conversations. It's just like when you have, chances are when you tell somebody a secret about yourself, they
Yeah.
feel somehow obligated to tell you something in return. It might not be too personal, but I've
Yeah.
noticed it, when you make a
Unless they're
confession.
like me, I don't. You can tell me everything about yourself. I still won't say anything. Like for example, you've given so many anecdotes in this episode. I don't think I've given any anecdotes yet.
It-
Things like
okay.
that.
Oh, yeah. So I get, yeah, it depends on the person, some
Yeah.
people, but some people will just, but I think it depends. So I think who you're having that conversation with could also stay out that part of
Yeah.
you as well. So yeah.
Fair. So it's so that it should not be as if we are bashing small talk or I'm bashing small talk. Let me talk about myself. Let's give small talk its flower as well. Initially, we
Okay.
said that small talk can be like an appetizer or the entree into the main course. But
Mhm.
sometimes we know that at the same time as well, small talk builds that foundation of trust, as you rightly mentioned. Like you talked about the other business that you met that you probably might run into in another event. You've already built that foundation up because of little small talk, or the dad that you met. You've built that foundation as well of trust. Next time you see each other, you're going to have that bond again. So maybe next time someone asks you how was your weekend, maybe give you a real answer. Who knows? It could lead to somewhere interesting. But then I have another question again, right? Because you know that
Okay.
as Katayan, we talk about how society influences our behavior, whether big way or small ways, how it shape our behavior. Do you think that social media? I know that both of us are more like deep conversation people. For I can guess why, but there are other people that prefer actual small talk in every setting, like in the workplace, if they are meeting in a lobby for an interview or on the bus, on the train. Do you think that social media has a role to play in how people prefer communication? Because even in that deep communication, I think that people expect you to be funny, witty, keep it simple, have a quick punchline to get going. Do you think that social media? I think social media has played a role in there. Everyone wants an entertainer. Everyone wants like a kind of TikTok conversation where it is short, simple, quick, informative, but at the same time entertaining at the same time. So I don't know if you share that perspective or if you have a different one. And also the audience, please let us know if you think that social media has had a role to play in how people communicate in their preference, whether deep talk or small talk. But I'll leave it to you, Dr. Morris.
Okay. So I'm not, to be honest, I'm not really sure, right? I
Hmm.
think obviously, social media has a part to play in terms of, when we see, in a way, yes, in a way, no, because actually, in both ways, yes, it does have a major role because for social media now, right? If we're looking at the impact social media has, right?
Hmm.
You can have a connection, with somebody over social media, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, social media, a lot of people that go on social media, uh, I usually say that most people go to social media for usually a number of things. Number one, you're looking for entertainment. Number two, you're looking for, information, um, or a mix of both. There might be other factors, right? Um, so it depends on what you're going to social media for, right?
Yeah.
For me, when I go onto social media, a lot of the stuff that comes up on my algorithm is like, you know, you know, events, what's happening. It's like maybe trendy techie subjects
Hmm.
and new information, something. that I'm really passionate about. So I
Yeah.
subscribe to the group, so I get a lot of feed regarding that particular topic. So it's more informative. Um,
But also, I'm sure there's some element of infotainment as well. It might be
yes,
informative, but
oh,
there's still some.
most
Yeah,
certainly, yes. There's some entertainment part, right?
yeah,
Yes, more, so it's a mix of both, right?
yes.
So yeah, so now that on its own, you could learn a thing or two about how people communicate from just watching some of those things. For example, the informative part of it could be teaching you how to communicate better with people. So it does play a part.
Hmm.
Or it could also be a negative part whereby it isolates you from making those connections with people. Right.
Hmm.
So again, when we go into the bus, you go into the train, almost everybody is heads down on their phone or have their earphones on, and
Yeah.
hardly before you see strangers, speaking with one another on
Hmm.
the phone. Oh, sorry, on the face to face. So social media, and most of the times, what are they doing? They are on social media.
Yeah.
I take the train to work most of the time, so I see this every time, right?
Hmm.
I too am most of the times on my phone. I'm listening to a YouTube lecture or something,
Hmm.
but it's in a way preventing people from having those,
Yeah.
small talks or those lighthearted communication. Something as simple as, "Oh, how's your day? Hope your day went well,"
Yeah.
and
Oh,
stuff like
where are you
that.
going? Like, yeah.
Yeah, something as simple as that. It
Yeah.
doesn't really. It just basic conversation about the weather
Hmm.
and stuff like that. We don't even have that. So social media is playing a part in deterring that from
Yeah.
happening. But again, social media, you could also watch how people relate and learn,
Hmm.
maybe when you watch movie stars, the way they sometimes elude confidence. Again, it depends. Some people would watch with admiration. Some people watch to learn about some of these things. So it
Yeah.
depends on the individual and what you pick out from social medias and
Yes.
what you see.
I agree. So
But it
basically,
does play a part.
yeah, exactly. In a nutshell, we agree that it plays a part. And in terms of
Yeah,
culture
it
as well, I
does.
also think that culture tends to play a part because I spoke with someone, a couple of people that were Pakistanis. I've met different Pakistanis in my life. And when I asked them, like, what do you like about the UK or what? No, not what do you like, what is the shocking thing, the first culture shock that you found in the UK? And then they would say, like, in Pakistan, by the time they're on the bus, or the train from point A to point B, they would have made 11 friends or 20 friends on the bus. Whereas in the
Yeah.
UK, everyone is just looking down as well. So I still also think that culture has a role to play in how people communicate, or whether they're going to do a small talk or a short talk. I don't want to go too much into that.
Yeah.
So
But that's
yeah.
definitely an essential part. In some cultures, we know that small talk is very prevalent.
Hmm.
Like, you know, even in not just in developing countries too is quite similar, in Nigeria and all. You go into the bus, chances are you will speak to somebody or somebody will do something that
Hmm.
someone else will comment on, and everybody just bonds um on that particular act. So
Yeah,
yeah, so those small talks are very, prevalent in some societies than others, but
definitely.
yeah.
Well, so as we're slowly round up, we're not rounding up. As we're slowly rounding up, it's important to know that at the end of the day, it's not about choosing one or the other. It's about knowing when to go deep and when to keep it light. Because some days you're ready to dive deep, and other days you're trying not to drown in the week's chaos. So maybe you should just read the room. Some people aren't ready for deep talks. Sometimes use your small talk as a bridge into as a bridge, not a destination.
Yeah.
And if you're craving deep conversation, maybe create the right environment of privacy and time and trust like that. etc etc. But as usual, we like to round up with some would you rather questions. And for this episode, I have three would you rather questions. The first one to Dr. Morris, myself, and everyone listening, watching on YouTube and streaming in other audio platforms. First one is would you rather have a 2 hour deep conversation with a stranger or a 5 minutes of small talk with your celebrity crush?
Oh,
Yeah.
uh, when we say celebrity crush, But define celebrity
No,
crush?
how you want, however you want to define. Don't put me on the spot. However you want to decide to define it. 5 minutes with your celebrity crush having small talks, or 2 hours deep conversation with a stranger.
Um, oh,
Yeah, while you're thinking
that's a
about it.
difficult one.
Yeah, for me, I
But
think
you go on.
yeah, no, I think I would rather have a deep 2 hour conversation with a stranger because I think people tend to be more open with strangers because either because they know they're not going to see them again, so that's kind of a therapy. But your celebrity crush, you talk to them for 5 minutes, they might never remember you again. So, or
Yeah.
yeah, yes, you might remember the conversation, but yeah, what does it
I
do? Oh,
mean,
I talked to this person for 5 minutes. So you can also meet your celebrity crush at the airport and talk to them for 5 minutes, But I think I would rather prefer a 2 hour deep conversation anyway. But yeah, you guys let me know what you think.
yeah,
And
it depends though. For example, okay, I will
Mhm.
start by saying a 5 minute conversation with somebody you respect, you admire a lot, right? Could change your life. Maybe there's something you wanted to ask them
No,
about,
no, you are changing it now. Let's say celebrity.
No, that's what
No,
that's what I'm
if it's someone
saying.
you advise, if it's someone you admire a lot, obviously everyone would rather have a 5 minutes conversation with that. But let's keep it
So, but
celebrity. Let's
but
keep
that's
it
the
as
thing.
celebrity.
That's
Celebrity. Everyone thinks the person is
no
celebrity.
okay. Oh no, in that case, I'd rather have a 2 hours conversation. But if it's because my celebrity crush, that's why I said celebrity crush, right? It's different. My idea of celebrity crush it's non it's not gender
Bros,
specific.
no, no, we know crush. We know what crush is. We know. Don't try to
Okay, okay,
semantic your
all
way out
right,
of this one.
okay. So I'll go for the 2 hours deep conversation.
All right,
Um,
then. Fair enough. And then the,
mm,
the second to the last, would you rather be stuck in an elevator, in a lift, with someone who overshares their life story or someone who only gives one word answers?
oh. No, definitely. I want that life story because we can learn a lot about somebody. We can learn a lot about ourselves. We can learn a lot
Mm,
about how people think by even the things we deem to be too much. So yes, so I would rather eat my ears away, keep chit chatting and talking. Yeah, I'm sure a thing or two would sip in, and I'll definitely learn something because I believe every moment is a learning experience. So the longer I could share that um, conversation with somebody, even if the person is just over talking, and yeah, I think I would prefer that one.
yeah, fair enough. I think I also prefer that one, but for a different reason. Because if the person is giving me one word answer, it means I'm the one trying to have the conversation and talk and try to get conversation going, and the person is just like, "Oh, leave me alone." So
Yeah,
basically, yeah, I would rather have someone who overshares. But on the other hand, if I'm being real, I think I might be that person that also give one word answers because sometimes I don't want to talk depending on the question that's been asked. If it's like all this kind of, oh, how is the weather? Oh, good. Things like that. So that's a 50-50 for me. I think it's a chance for me to reflect on that one. How I answer questions to people.
okay.
Yes. And then the last would you rather for the episode is would you rather have a life changing conversation with someone you will never see again or a forgettable conversation with your best friend?
My best friends will always be there. There are so many conversations I've had with my friends that I don't even remember. So that won't be the first time. So it's a no-brainer for me. I'll yeah. Think about it, because there are so many conversations you've had with your friends that you
Mhm.
can't even remember. You
Yeah,
know you were talking, but you can't remember what it is that you guys were talking about. But if it's a changing conversation with somebody that's a stranger, of course I'll go for that.
fair enough. I think no, I'd rather have a life changing conversation with someone because, yeah, I want to change my life at all times. So I prefer
Exactly.
to have that one, even if I don't see the person again. Thank you.
You see, you're
Yeah,
selfish. You could be the one changing the person's life.
maybe selfish. Selfish is not bad. That's the way I like to frame it. But yeah, on that note, I would like to say that. So whether you're a deep talker or a small talker, here's the real takeaway. It's not the type of conversation that matters, it's the connection it creates. All right. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Dr. Morris, for sharing and coming and sharing your
Thank you
insight with
for
us as
having me.
always. And until the next time, please remember that sometimes the best conversation starts with a simple, hey, how are you? All right, and that's a wrap. Thank you for tuning on to Scatteryan Podcast. Until the next time, I'm going to say stay curious, stay safe, stay kind. Don't be afraid to go a little deeper. Ask lots of questions, question everything, and use your brain. That's CFA.